these executions were followed along a consistent pattern during the 1960s through the 1970s. That would have been an execution every 2.5 days. And during the 1980s, it would have been an execution every 3¼ days. To prove that the government had it out for the blacks and the other color skins, it would have been out of the 3,726 executions that were recorded under the apartheid government, only 3 of those people killed were white. So 3 out of 3,736 is merely a fraction. So along with the racially biased executions comes along with the anti-apartheid rebel groups. These rebel groups mainly consisted of the blacks and other colored skins. They were the ones that protested against the government, but were the ones that later got executed. If the apartheid government's sole purpose was to diminish crime, isn't it ironic that their executions only result in more violence, crimes, and executions? So what I'm trying to get at is, the government wants to get rid of crime, but their efforts of stopping it is resulting in the rebel groups to act, hence resulting in more crime and executions. So don't get me wrong, they're not the only country that performs capital punishment, we do it too. However, the reasons for getting the death penalty in the States are a lot more weighted than it would be in South Africa. Here you have to be executed for a multitude of reasons, such as first-degree murder, capital murder, etc. We perform quick and painless methods to execution, however, such as lethal injection or lethal gas. In South Africa, they perform necklacing, which is an act of burning a gas-filled tire around their neck for a slow and painful death. Sounds cruel and unusual, right? So, since 1976, the U.S. has performed 1,363 executions, which may seem like a lot, but in 38 years for a country with 33.1 million, that's only a mere fraction versus South Africa, where they only have a population of 55.1 million, and performed 3,726 executions in only 34 years, which is a larger fraction in comparison to the USA. This is a result of a corrupt apartheid government that is ready to commit execution under any circumstance. Don't bring back capital punishment.
You said necklacing was a horrible, just awful crime, like what they're doing, right? It's a crime taking a hand. They are not necklacing. Those are rebel groups that are necklacing and burning people alive. The way that they will be executing people is through hanging, not by necklacing. Necklacing is a rebel group activity. And also, the people who committed the crimes, they went out, they did this, they murdered, they raped, they ruined someone else's life. Shouldn't they be able to take the punishment? Shouldn't they be able to live up to their actions? They chose to go and kill family members of people. They've lived, and now they've killed people. They've just destroyed lives. You say it's unethical to have to have execution because you're ruining life. If they're out on the streets, they can go out, they can kill people, they can kill your family, they can kill your sister, Luke, they can kill your dad, Patrick, they can kill you, Bobby, they could kill you, Megan. We're stopping them from hurting people who haven't done anything, people who live their lives, want to be happy, just want to live a normal life without having a family member die. Death is a horrible thing, but how are we supposed to protect people who can't protect themselves? We need to stop them before they go out, recommit the crimes, and ruin more people's lives. These people are also given time before they know they're executed, to find peace with God or peace in their soul. If they are truly sorry for what they did, they would accept what they have done. They would not still feel horrible with themselves, but what they did, they should be able to live up to it. They shouldn't be able to ruin everyday lives. They shouldn't be able to kill mothers, sisters, fathers, and brothers. Thank you.
So I have a question. We're talking about capital punishment, people who have committed a murder, rape, or robbery. Why did you bring up a picture of sick people? Did they commit a crime or rape or robbery? Are we punishing them for being sick? Why are we talking about this in a case about capital punishment? Anyway, my main point
Sick people?
Tuberculosis. Strike.
Those are prisoners.
Anyway,
It's 2 strikes.
Can I go? So, can I continue, please? So I have a couple of direct quotes from the South African Constitution. It is the right of every person not to be deliberately killed by the state, through systematically planned active execution sanctioned by the state as a mode of punishment, performed by an executioner remunerated for his In a specific case, S versus Williams, the South African Constitution requires that measures that assail the dignity and self-esteem of the individual will have to be justified. There is no place for brutal and dehumanizing treatment or punishment. Another case, S versus McWinyane, states that rights to life and dignity were the most important of all human rights. Capital punishment is inconsistent with the commitment to human rights expressed in the South African Constitution. That's all. Actually, one more point. And it's also a known fact that Nelson Mandela, president of South Africa in the 1990s, was a strong proponent of necklacing. It has gone on in both government and citizens. Get what I'm saying, right? That's all.
So closing statements, you guys go first.
Alright, out of respect for the victims, I would like to read a quote and then have a moment of silence. To live in hearts we leave behind is not to die. Joshua Campbell. Now if you would all join me, please, respectfully, in a moment of silence for the victims.
Could we all stand up, please?
Alright, thank you.
So, South African Constitution states that the state must respect civilized society values. This is respect for human dignity. Capital punishment violates these values. The South African Constitution also includes an acceptance by the South African society that even the vilest criminal remains a human possessed of common human dignity.
Okay, you guys can step out.
Questions.
Oh, I have a question.
Okay. Patrick, you said the death penalty results in more crime. How does that work?
Yeah, anti-apartheid groups are the ones, you know, if they see that themselves, like their people are getting killed because of this execution, so hey, they want to stop the government, and then the government noticed the anti-apartheid groups, so they, you know, they're
It's
not just
furthering
gonna kill.
resistance against the government, so the government's taking more actions. They were to kill more of those people.
That was only their question, so
Alright.
I have a question for politically incorrect. So, you guys talked about, I think it was Brendan, how like they get AIDS and they eventually die in prison, right? Like slow painful death. Well, your whole debate, your whole position is about wanting justice for the families. So in my opinion, if I was raped or my brother was murdered, I wouldn't want the person who did that to get a
Christina, what's your
humane
question?
death. So why should we give a monster justice and give them a quick death? We want them to suffer because we want them to pay for what they did to our family. So why should we be humane to them?
They might not.
So most of our position, so our form of justice is to remove the people responsible for these crimes and to prevent them from further violence, such as the man who wanted to incite a race war. Now, we believe that we do not, despite your belief about the Bible, we do not want to play God. We do not believe that suffering begets suffering. We believe in a quick, humane alternative to torturing and prolonging the death of someone who goes astray and they repented.
We're arguing for justice, not revenge.
Chase, I have a question for you guys. So with this kind of corrupt government that obviously both of you have stated that it is, how can all those executions be justified? Like, how can you make sure that that's how it's going to be? With this kind of government, I feel like these executions are going to happen to people who have approval.
Okay, well, the justice system operates independently from the actual political system, so the justice system would be carrying out the executions, not the corrupt government, like the leaders and stuff.
So you don't think that the corrupt government has control over that because it is corrupt?
Chase, was that question just for them? Or is
It
open
would
to
be like such as Congress executing people. Congress, it wouldn't be under their direct jurisdiction.
The government can't put people on trial to the same extent. It has to be brought up by a citizen to put on trial. They have to report a crime, and then it goes through all those steps. They can't come back and say, like, this guy at this farm made this crime. Someone around there has to report the crime, and it goes through the levels up. Most of the people who are getting this level of the judicial system are pretty well-known murders. Like it's there's a lot of facts pointing to it. There's a lot of witnesses around, and they happen so often that there's certain ways you can tell if they're murders. Like they're pretty universal and done the same way.
So these people won't get executed for crimes that they do in this corrupt government.
Their legal system is very similar to ours with the jury and the judge on a fair trial.
Our government's not corrupt.
Have we had corrupt trials?
Not as nearly as bad as we would be sometimes.
You're assuming. I don't. There hasn't been many reports of false things, and under that standpoint, they'd still get put in life in prison. And we talk about how bad the conditions are there. So either way, it's gonna be bad. But I don't believe that there's gonna be corrupt trials under if they bring it back.
Is that it from the gallery? Jury.
That is the gallery.
Dude, that's.
Well, I have a question. Like, you guys talked about the bad conditions in the jail. Well, I was wondering, are they, so when you said you kind of talked about how you just wanted to give them a humane death, I mean, what if the people in there aren't necessarily in there for crimes against, like, actual murders? I mean, what if they're accidentally put in there or something? I mean, would you still just kill them just to get rid of the, what is it?
That's just case.
Yeah. Or, I mean, that's what I'm curious.
The death penalty would be reserved for rapists and murders. That's what the debate is about.
So what, how, I mean, so what's that have to do with over,
Well, it would open up a lot of rooms. A lot of these trials are about rape and murder.
so are you saying all the people in the jail are rapist
No.
murderers?
No. We're trying to keep the rapist murderers out of the jail.
We're not saying that we kill everyone who's in the jail, so that's not what we're saying at all. We're saying we execute the specific murderers who've done these heinous crimes.
And basically, if you're standing trial for murder, even under the current system, either way, it is the death sentence because you will die in these prisons after several years. And the question is if we should be carrying out these murders in a humane capacity. Executions for one of these murders.
Okay. Questions from the jury?